Right, everything should be working okay, everyone. I hope everybody is having a great start to your Saturday here. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of severe weather today and then again tomorrow to talk about, so that's what we're here to do in this stream. So if you're just now joining me, hello and welcome. Don't forget to hit that like button down below. That really helps support the stream, spreads this hopefully life-saving information out to more people. As always, if you're feeling generous, the super chat down there, that's always the best way to support me directly. But the like button is what I definitely appreciate, and the subscribe button, those are definitely things you could do for free to support the channel. Thanks so much for being here. Let's get right into this here. I'll answer any questions you have during the stream down below in the live chat. If you're watching after the stream, just want to rehash that you can always put your questions down there, preferably with a zip code down there in the comments section. So let's get into this here. Here's what we've got from the Storm Prediction Center today. We've got a broad Level 1 of 5 risk for severe weather here over most of the Central Plains. This includes areas from South Dakota and parts of Iowa, back down to Central Texas. So make sure you can put a thumbs up, in the chat as well if you can hear me okay at this point. We've got a slight risk surrounding that in parts of Nebraska, into parts of Iowa, parts of Missouri, Kansas, down into Oklahoma, as well as into north central Texas. That also includes an enhanced risk here from Abilene and Wichita Falls here in northern Texas to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and even the Fort Smith, Arkansas area just northwest of you there in the far northwest sliver in Arkansas. There is an enhanced level 3 of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center there. And that 3 of 5 risk goes all the way to Topeka, Kansas, Springfield, Missouri, nearing Columbia, Missouri. You can see Manhattan, Kansas, Hays, Kansas, Dodge City. The main bullseye for severe weather are going to be here from Oklahoma City to Wichita, Kansas. And in fact, let me pull up my personal severe weather risk for the day today. Let's go on over to that at this point using my ONW severe scale. If you're new to my channel, you're not as familiar with this. If you've been with me for a long time, you're pretty certain to what all these levels mean. But from 0 to 7, that's what my scale goes. If you're not in a color, that means I'm not expecting any type of remote severe weather for you. If you're in a 1, low certainty, but a few severe storms at least appear possible, especially the closer you are to the darker green areas, which mean that you're in a 2 of 7 for isolated severe weather being expected with likely a wind and hail-driven risk. By the time you get up to a 3 and a 4, you're looking at an increased risk to scattered severe storms. Significant severe storms may even mix in with some tornadoes. 5 and 6, that's when you're starting to get on up there towards a dangerous severe storm with possibly a severe storm outbreak set up. And then 6 and 7, that's your highest certainties there for a big wind, hail, or tornado event, and then eventually maybe even a extreme tornado outbreak or long-lived derecho event. Here's what we've got for the day today on our Saturday, May 25th, and the risk is pretty elevated here. Now, I considered a level 6 of 7 for a pretty significant wind, hail, and tornado event here over parts of Oklahoma and Kansas in these areas that are shaded in that maroon color with the dashed lines around it. However, I ended up opting for an overall broad 5 of 7 for the continuing region, mostly in the Storm Prediction Center's moderate risk zone for today. So from southwest Missouri into southern and eastern Kansas, and then north and north central parts of Oklahoma as well. These are the areas we're watching closely for today for that 5 of 7. Notice the 3 of 7, though. It emanates outward in lots of directions here. So all the way to central Nebraska, where there will especially be a wind and hail threat, southwestern parts of Iowa, even far west central Illinois for later tonight, and we'll time this all out momentarily, and into south central Texas here as well, or at least the central part of Texas, a 3 of 7, making its way on down there towards parts of areas, say, like the Abilene, Brownwood, San Angelo region, the 3 of 7 kind of stretching on down towards that area. So for today, here's what my description reads. A dangerous severe weather event appears likely late Saturday in the plains as a few particularly dangerous supercells with huge hail. Some of that hail getting over that softball size category, getting into that 4 to 5 inch range. That is huge diameter. That's going to cause major damage. So if you have a carport, a garage, something you can move a vehicle into, if you have a vehicle out here and you have a place to move it into, please do so. Because obviously if this turns out just to be a lot of huge supercells, even with just hail, that can cause a lot of damage and obviously cause a lot of problems with insurance and other related issues there. Intense tornadoes are expected as of now into parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and North Texas here. So really from this area in northern Texas and the orange particularly, into central Oklahoma, a lot of it there, including Oklahoma City, El Reno, surrounding areas, and then down there into southeastern parts of Kansas. As we go into Missouri, a lot of these storms will turn over a little bit more to a wind threat, but overall, a few tornadoes could be stronger than EF3 level, especially if we maintain the discrete supercell mode here over the Kansas and especially Oklahoma area. And then eventually, again, those damaging winds will pick up with some 80-plus miles per hour being possible as these cells head east. I'll get to all questions here momentarily, but let's go on over now to talk a little bit about some of the ingredients that we've got going on here. Let's go over to this page here so that you can see what we're looking at. and we're going to pull up the HRRR model. We don't want to be on the east right now. We want to be on the central United States, and let's pull away from there, and here we are. Central United States, let's go to ingredients and turn this on here, and now we're talking. Looking at severe weather in terms of our storm energy, we're going to have all day for storm energy to build up to the north, and this is what you call surface-based CAPE. This is at the surface, your storm ingredients. It goes on a scale from 0 to 6,000. That's what you see on the bottom of your screen. You can't have values over 6,000, but overall we stay within that 0 to 6,000 range. So here we go, playing things out as we go through our Saturday. Notice all this energy down here in Texas, these reds and purples indicating plenty of energy for severe weather. This doesn't mean you're getting storms actively. This just means that moisture, instability, all of that is building on up, starting to emanate northward, and as a result of that, you've got already that storm energy beginning to pop on up there into parts of Texas. Now moving into Oklahoma as the evening rolls on. Look at this. You can kind of see there, right there, that's where some of those cells are already indicating they're going to be forming according to this model. That's why it's looking like the storm energy kind of disappears there. But out ahead of this, you've got 3,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram at least of some of that surface-based CAPE, which is convective available potential energy. Plenty of energy to support these storms. You're getting on up there towards the top of the scale. No reason to believe you can't get some stronger storms in this area. And as we go on over to the significant tornado parameter, something else that really just combines a bunch of ingredients and shows you what the tornado risk is. Heading into the middle of the night tonight, this is as we head towards midnight to 1 a.m. If any storms are still continuing in this region from North Texas into Oklahoma, far south central Kansas, and even northwestern Arkansas, southwest Missouri, these are going to be an environment ripe for tornadoes. And part of the reason for that is right here. What we're going to look at here is your low-level jet stream. This is about in the 850 millibar level, so several thousand feet above your head, but not, 15, 20, 30,000 up. Here's what we're looking at. You see this grayish turning brownish, and then eventually even those whiter shaded areas here in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. That's where you've got a 50, 60, going on 70 knot low-level jet stream kicking on up across the region, and that kind of really helps on out here in providing that support for severe weather. Because when you mix this with what's going on in the upper levels, if we go on over to the European model and we look at the upper level jet, this is what's going to show you what's going on. This is 300 millibars. This is 500 millibars. Looking further into the upper levels, you see this right here. You see these arrows on screen. I don't explain it this in depth when I do a weather video. If you've ever watched one of my weather videos here on the channel, which I'm sure many of you have, it's probably why you're on this live stream right now. But anyway, you can see it coming out of parts of Texas and Oklahoma. We've got these west to east winds in the mid to upper level jet stream, maybe with a little bit of a southwest to northeast kick there. When you get closer to the surface here, look at that. You see how the arrows are going up? They're very small, but they're going like this. So we just looked at this. You've almost got like a hashtag looking symbol up here. When the winds form a hashtag with the arrows, then think of that as being a way to support severe weather, because you've got these rotating winds now at multiple levels of the atmosphere. That's going to support those supercells if they try to fire down here into parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and North Texas. So let's play this out here. Let's go on over, without further ado, to Radar Omega, look at some of the most recent model runs we have here for later today. Now, I'm going to go back on over to the run from just a couple hours earlier, because it's the one that's going to give us kind of that full extension of our time frame down the line here. So again, continue to put any questions you have down in the chat for today or Sunday's severe weather. We'll break down Sundays right after this. Here we go. Looking at the severe weather setup here. First of all, we're probably going to stay storm-free through about 2, 3, 4 o'clock Central Time. Now, note that the times on the top of your screen here are in Eastern Time. That's my time zone over here in South Carolina. For those of you in the plains, this is 4 p.m., not 5 p.m. So 2, 3, 4 o'clock Central Time in the afternoon here. Probably, if anything, we might have a few stronger storms trying to get going up in Nebraska. If we get really early development in this greenish area back here in far western Texas, heading in even into the Texas Panhandle, that would be when some of that occurs. But it's looking like we're going to begin to see the storm development right around 5 and 6 o'clock Central Time. So this is 5, 6, heading towards 7 o'clock Central Time here. The HRRR model, this doesn't guarantee that it's going to be correct, but I've been seeing this signal for a while now that we're going to have a little pocket of some supercells, probably initially developing here in north central Texas. Based on the Storm Prediction Center's wording, based on the environment we're looking in here, these aren't going to have the highest tornado threat, but we're still going to have the potential for a few stronger tornadoes to get going in these. So Vernon, Barker-Burnett, Wichita Falls, Seymour, Graham, all the way down here towards Abilene, if we can get anything to fire down here. The fact that We don't have many storms expected to fire yet. We've still got this enhanced risk down here. Shows that these storms are going to be really capable of the especially big hail. That's what you can see in the pink and even those black dots there in each of these cells. There's kind of 3 supercells training on one little band here. We could see some 3 to 4 inch diameter hail easily out of some of these storms as they push through north central Texas here. So this is going to be the beginning of this event more than likely. We'll start to see things fire up in Texas, maybe further north in Nebraska and western Oklahoma as well. Overall, though, again, I think some of these early storms might actually kind of slow down because the ingredients are coming up from the south. The more of these form in this area before anything can get going up here, the more that tampers with some of that storm energy making its way into Oklahoma and Kansas. But overall, right now, it's expected that we will get enough up here in Oklahoma and Kansas to support some supercells. These cells, based on the look of this model anyway, could it change and could we see more widespread coverage? Yes. I would say from what we've seen so far, at best, the coverage is going to be scattered, maybe even widely scattered to isolated here, just because, I mean, again, here's a cell, you've got one up here. We might only see 2 or 3 really big storms here in Kansas and Oklahoma today, but where they do form again, I showed you those rotational winds. I showed you that storm energy. I showed you that significant tornado parameter. There's no reason to believe that we're not getting the energy here to support these turning into violent tornadic supercells with EF2, EF3, EF4 potential here. So Oklahoma City, Norman, down to Lawton, even north central Texas in the Denton and Dallas area and to your northwest, on up here to even central Kansas in the Minneapolis, Kansas area to Topeka, back through Wichita. Really this quarter right here, if I'm circling you now, this is your timing. Right in here, this is kind of the area you need to watch heading right after sundown into the early evening hours, so 7, 8, heading towards 9 o'clock. And again, even if you're not getting tornadoes out of these cells, I'd be willing to bet there's going to be a lot of 3 to 5 inch hail in some of these storms from Oklahoma City back down to northwest of Dallas. The environment is ripe for huge hailstones, got a lot of lift for these storms. South central parts of Kansas as well. I mean, even if you just get one supercell near Wichita, this could be the one that produces baseball to softball sized hail. It could produce a violent tornado, something we'll watch. And again, on up here in Nebraska, at least some wind and hail out of those storms as well. Wouldn't rule out an isolated tornado either. Continuing to play things out here, let's head towards about the middle of the night, 11 to 12 here, heading on our Saturday night into early Sunday. If we get any storms to make a run towards Dallas, they will be weakening. Tornado threat will probably be on the lower side based on current models, but there will still be the isolated potential for a tornado, and especially some 1 to 3 inch hail out of some of those storms, and as well as some gusty winds as they continue to head on off towards the east. Notice we see more storms filling in parts of southern Kansas according to this model. So from Wichita to Emporia to southeastern parts of Kansas near the Joplin, Missouri area. Some of these areas watching out for some supercells that will be transitioning into more of a mixed cluster mode here as we head towards the middle of the night. Also on up here into parts of eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, and northeastern Kansas, this zone right here, we'll be watching some of those heavier storms with wind, hail, and maybe a brief tornado. Playing things out a little more, continue to dump those questions in the chat for today or Sunday, even Monday as well. Here we go towards 1, 2 a.m. here. Now we're into our early Sunday morning. A lot of stuff mixing together. This doesn't mean that we can't still see a tornado or two. I do think at this point, though, we're going to see the tornado threat begin to decrease from southwest to northeast, and we're going to see the most prominent cells being capable of some of those winds that could get upwards of 70 miles per hour in this area here, and especially on down there to southeast and eastern Kansas, heading into western Missouri. As well as some of the big hail continuing. Notice how we get some segments out of these storms. I mean, Kansas City, Missouri in the overnight hours, multiple rounds of storms possible. So make sure you have a way to receive alerts because you can still have significant tree damage, significant wind damage from straight line 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, which will be a possibility places like Kansas City, Missouri overnight tonight. Same goes down here in Lebanon, Springfield, Joplin, some of these storms that transition from earlier night supercells to later night kind of mixed mode clusters here. So that's the timing for Saturday heading into Sunday. Now let me break down the Sunday setup for those of you who are here for that, and then we're going to answer some questions for both days. Here we go towards our Sunday. Here's the Storm Prediction Center's outlook here. Basically starting where the storms are going to be in the morning, heading to the east from there. We've got a level 1 in this greenish area out of 5 on their threat scale, 2 of 5 in this yellow, and then in the orange, you've got a 3 of 5 risk for severe weather on the levels here. In this area right here, this is where we're going to be looking at the potential for the most significant damaging winds. So from right now, it looks like Columbia to Jefferson City in Missouri, on over to Springfield and Bloomington in Illinois, on over here to Indianapolis, Bloomington, Vincennes, down to Evansville in Indiana, and then through most of Kentucky and far north central Tennessee in the Clarksville area. That's where we'll be watching the storms. in a broad sense all the way down here to Arkansas and northeast Texas as well, with some hail there as we head towards late Sunday. We've shown my severe weather scale for Saturday. Let's move on to Sunday here. Go back on over to that type of graphic right now. Here's my severe scale for Sunday. Again, on the scale from 0 to 7, if you're in the white, I'm expecting you to be in the clear. Still be weather aware. I mean, if you're on the edge of some of these green and darker green zones. But overall, if you're in the yellow, orange, or red, that's where I want you to be on it. Particularly close. Watch for the storms as we head towards Sunday, as a wind-driven severe weather risk appears prominent for parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley Sunday and Sunday night, with swaths of damaging winds, isolated instances above 75 miles per hour, widely scattered tornadoes, and some instances of 1 to 2 inch hail appearing likely, as we'll see that morning to afternoon round, as well as an evening round of storms that we're going to have to track over this area. The 405 goes from Missouri all the way on over there to parts of eastern Kentucky. And my 5 hasn't really shifted since yesterday. It's sitting in parts of Illinois, Indiana, and northwestern parts of Kentucky. So if we go on over here, I want to just jump right on over to the timing, because I think I've been pretty consistent. I talked about this in my video yesterday. We've got a decent low-level jet. It's not going to be quite as supportive of tornadoes if we get any supercells tomorrow as what we've seen for our Saturday setup here today. Again, things can change, but right now here's what we're looking at according to the HRRR model, a pretty accurate model to look at. Don't focus on exact locations of these storms, but focus on the broad area. From Missouri heading into Illinois and west central Kentucky here, let's go back on over to this graphic here. There we go. Now you can see as we head towards these areas around 9, 10 a.m. on our Sunday, we're going to be watching some showers and storms. So east central Missouri heading into a lot of Illinois and west central Kentucky. These are the areas where, especially along this leading edge, if we continue to see storms left over from tonight progress east, some of these could produce some at 70 to even 80 mile per hour wind gusts on the high end as they progress towards parts of Indiana and parts of Kentucky. Now, this is just round 1. What it can do, though, you see all this lingering activity and some showers kind of back behind it. That can help to kind of limit some of that instability that could be in place if these storms weren't here. But nonetheless, this could bring at least some isolated to scattered 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, especially if this trends upward on the models here, really from areas just south of Chicago and near Chicago on down to far north central Tennessee if it continues to set up like this. Also notice, this model painting that we could have a few isolated, supercell looking storms back down here in Arkansas as early as the middle of the afternoon here on our Sunday, so keep that in mind. It does look like overall this activity weakens while progressing towards West Virginia, western parts of the state of Virginia, and western North Carolina. Overall, though, in the middle of the evening here, we'll still be watching some storms probably in Kentucky and Tennessee, because that's what tends to happen with these weakening storms. The northern end fizzles out, and then you kind of get some new storms on the southern end where you're actually able to tap into some of that instability that's kind of riding northward into the activity. I think our main round of storms for the day, though, is going to be transpiring back here over parts of Missouri, heading into parts of Illinois, and eventually Kentucky and Indiana here as we head towards the middle of the evening. 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, heading into the evening here on our Sunday. Some storms with isolated tornadoes, but especially some damaging winds over 70 miles per hour developing here in isolated to scattered fashion. We'll also be watching some of that hail. Look at this development here. I think it's going to be a very messy period once we get that first batch out of here. This is as we head towards 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening on our Sunday. First batch progresses closer to the East Coast, most of it weakening. We'll see if we can get anything here on the foothills of the Appalachians to be severe, and if the Storm Prediction Center expands their outlines for anything of that nature. But overall, as we head towards 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, we've got a few supercells. You can see them in the mix, so some isolated tornadoes probably getting going here in some of these spots. But overall, things quickly, if not have already been in a line segment mode here by the time we head towards 10, 11, 12 in the evening. This looks like a particularly intense line of thunderstorms, and if we get any kind of upgrade from the Storm Prediction Center for severe weather, unless the risk for tornadoes suddenly jumps really quickly, this is going to be damaging wind upgrade, and it's probably going to be somewhere in here. So south of Terre Haute, heading into Bloomington, Effingham there, Vincennes, Evansville, down to Madisonville there in Kentucky as well. These areas, that's where I would expect an upgrade if we get this kind of setup to continue. So I would expect widespread 60 mile an hour wind gusts out of a storm line like this here. Some isolated 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts on the leading edge of that. Again, don't focus on exact locations, but kind of focus on where things are moving and how intense they look. Into the overnight of our Sunday heading into early Monday, we'll probably watch a lot of this push on off while weakening towards parts of Ohio. And then the most intense part of that line, again, remaining on the southern end here, as I mentioned earlier, the more instability you have, the stronger the storms are. So down here through Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, some of this will be a second round, depending on whether you got those earlier day storms on Sunday as well. More damaging winds continuing out of those, and some of those could even try to ride on off towards parts of the Carolinas and Georgia early Monday morning. And then Monday's a little bit up in the air from there. So we've talked about Saturday. We've talked about Sunday now. Let's answer some questions. Let's see what zip codes we have down there in the chat. If I've missed your zip code, then I will certainly get to your question here momentarily. So let's get on over to this. I'm going to start with the first zip code I see. So how will 46033 be for Sunday? Yeah, and I was talking about Saturday at the time, but we're talking about Sunday right now. I'll answer questions for Saturday or Sunday. I can't stress that enough. I'm going to say that like every 3 minutes, as there's going to be probably new people joining and ready to ask questions. I will answer your question for Saturday or Sunday severe weather at this time. So yeah, 46033, just north of Indianapolis there in parts of Indiana. This is going to be a wind-driven risk as we head towards our Sunday here, and it looks like you could get some storms during the middle of the day. So as we head 12, 1, 2 o'clock, according to this model, really just be prepared for a midday round, according to the HRRR at least. If this were to pan out, it's leftover from our Saturday evening, heading towards central Indiana. Be prepared at this time for isolated, scattered 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts if this type of line were to transpire. Maybe where you get a little appendage on the line, an isolated tornado as well, but overall it looks like mainly a wind and isolated hail-driven risk out of any midday line we get there in Indiana. And then that moves out, you get a break, you warm up, maybe even some sun pokes through the afternoon. You'll probably see the lightning flickering off to your west and your southwest as the evening rolls on here and the sun sets. And then back into the evening hours, we'll be watching, at least you're on the northern fringe, it looks like, of a pretty intense line of thunderstorms with more wind threats as well, driving the overall risks here by the time we head towards the evening Sunday. So I'd watch out for damaging winds as the primary hazard, but that can still uproot trees, cause some big damage. So watch that there in central Indiana as we head towards Sunday. And again, I'll answer questions for Saturday as well. Let's see here what I have missed. How is Wichita Falls, Texas looking? Yeah, let's go back on over there. You've got the risk here for our Saturday. So as I'm filming this here, it's not too long after this live stream when we're going to be seeing the storms firing up in Wichita Falls. And it looks like some really big hail will accompany any storms there. Here we go. Let's fire things up on the model. We'll go back to right there. I think your timing is going to be between around 5 to 9 o'clock this evening here, probably closer to the 6, 7 o'clock time frame in Wichita Falls proper. Out of these supercells, they could be in some clusters. Big hail, gusty winds being possible here. Some of that hail could reach 3 to 4 inches in diameter. Primarily a tornado threat the further north you go of Wichita Falls, but wouldn't rule out a brief and potentially strong tornado in Wichita Falls. So right now it looks like widespread, assuming these cells pop up, there could be widespread instances of hail all the way along this little cluster here within that localized area at least. Some 3 to 4 inch hail not out of the question. Make sure if you have a car, you're putting it under a carport or garage if you have that. And then otherwise we'll at least be watching some wind and tornado threat out of those storms as well. Could be a briefly strong tornado. So let's see. Yeah, everybody hit that thumbs up button. I see that in the chat. We've got 145 people watching right now, but we've got 38 likes on the stream. So make sure you're hitting the like button. Subscribing to the channel as well if you are new. Here we go. Let's move on over to the next question. And again, if I've accidentally missed yours, it's not because I'm trying to ignore yours. It's just just one person looking through the chat might miss one or two here or there. How does Bloomington, Indiana look for the weather? Let's go on, jump on over there, put the pin down so other people watching can kind of get the gist. If you see, make sure you're kind of paying attention too. I might answer your question in advance here if you're in an area similar to some of these spots I'm talking about. And yeah, I kind of just talked about the Bloomington, Indianapolis region, a damaging wind threat as we head towards our Sunday here. A midday round of storms will be possible there, some of those with 60 to 70 mile per hour winds in isolated, scattered fashion. Maybe a brief tornado or two and some large hail possible. And then again, as we head towards the middle of the evening into the middle of the night here, we're going to be watching more winds and isolated tornadoes out of those storms as well. So really 2 rounds with very similar hazards in place like Bloomington, Indiana. And watch out because I think if we get any kind of upgrade from the Storm Prediction Center, it's going to be kind of on your fringe there, somewhere in this area. All right, let's see. Weather with Sim, thumbs up. Severe storm filmer, I think a high risk will be issued for Oklahoma later. It all depends on whether or not there is enough certainty. I think the only thing holding the Storm Prediction Center back at this time is the level of certainty. It's a little uncertain how many storms there's going to be. I think the intensity of these storms deserves a high risk, but the coverage does not. So that's kind of why they're holding back on this, and I think the broad moderate is a good way to stay for now, but we'll see if they upgrade here. I believe we'll get a new update from them within the next 30 minutes, so we'll see how that looks here by the end of the stream as we head towards 12:30, 1 o'clock Eastern, and 11:30, 12 o'clock there Central. All right, let's see what we've got here. Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. So your zip code 65473. Glad to answer your question. Let's get on over here to what you're looking at. And yeah, while you could see some storms overnight tonight, I think we're going to be watching the storms then. And then again as we head towards the day tomorrow. Let's get rid of that pin. Is there a way to get rid of that pin from Bloomington, Indiana? I guess not. Anyway, let's just talk about what we've got going on here in central Missouri. Let's talk about Missouri. If you live in Missouri, pay attention now because I'm talking about your area as well, not just the person who just commented for Bloomington there. Thanks for that comment, though, that girl Joplin in there in central Missouri. Here we go, overnight tonight, heading into early tomorrow morning. Wind, hail, maybe a brief spin-up tornado, but it's looking like some damaging winds 60 to 70 miles per hour, maybe even isolated 75 miles per hour. As well as a couple of instances of hail and tornadoes will accompany these storms. It's not going to be widespread hail or tornado threat, but definitely some big wind and then some localized hail out of these storms. Could see multiple rounds between around 2 to 8 a.m. overnight tonight heading into early Sunday. Then by the time we head into the afternoon and evening here, we'll probably watch more isolated supercells and some mixed mode clusters here getting going over the region. So in kind of this area, forming near Bloomington and probably then heading east from there right around sundown time frame. That's what we'll be watching for you there in Missouri. So notice how in Missouri it's a little bit scattered around, but we'll certainly be watching, and with a kind of scattered nature like this, you could see a few supercells try to get going with some tornadoes. So isolated tornadoes, some damaging winds, some near 70 to 75 miles per hour, and then some isolated hail possible really in 3 rounds tomorrow in a place like Bloomington, Missouri, with as many storms are going to move through. All right, that's kind of your area there. 44244 there for 224. There we go. They're in Stow, Ohio with Severe Storm Filmer. Here we go. Let's see what he's got over there near Akron. Yeah, as we head towards the day on Sunday, it's looking like severe weather is going to stay to his southwest overall, but some of these storms that progress out of the marginal risk area may be worth watching there. You can see this particular model showing at least a few potentials for maybe some isolated damaging winds. I think overall, if we get enough daytime heating and some storm energy, this whole area here that's not even really in a severe weather risk of much could see some severe weather on the front end of our Sunday. Again, continue to ask questions for Saturday and Sunday here in the chat. And you can see, down the Appalachians as well, some of these will be interesting. But anyway, I think marginal risk will be warranted again if this continues to look like this, but not much of a tornado or hail threat. Mostly a wind threat probably if we get that. Okay, let's see what else we've got. What am I thinking for 68507? 68507, that is near the Lincoln, Nebraska area. Let's certainly get on over there. That's an area we haven't covered yet in the stream, like the mix of questions we're getting right now. Here we go. Let's go back on over to our Saturday outlook. We're looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlooks. If you have any questions about my ONW severe scale, we can pull that back up as well. You're going to be out of the worst tornado threat for the day today up there in parts of Omaha and Lincoln area of Nebraska. Obviously, your Saturdays and Saturday night is the day you're watching here today and into tonight for the worst storms if you get them there. Looking like wind, hail will be the primary threats. It's looking like they're going to be a little bit more numerous up there further north, and there's going to be some more convergence of these cells. So probably a lot of thunder in the middle of the evening and even into the middle and overnight hours of tonight in places like Lincoln, Nebraska. Looks pretty messy, so not widespread severe weather, but there will definitely be some probably very intense supercells with wind, hail, and tornado threats about 100 miles or more to your south. An isolated tornado wouldn't be out of the question there in the Lincoln, Nebraska area, but especially some scattered damaging winds to 60 to 70 miles per hour, and a few instances of some hail, 1 to 2 inches. That will be your main concern into the middle of tonight there. Got severe storm filmers a minute ago. West Texas 79912, 79912. Let's go over there to El Paso, Texas. Let's see if this area even is an area I'm worried about. Yeah, you're not in the concerns for severe weather. That's the good news over there. So there might be a little bit of a fire hazard. I can go on over to the Storm Prediction Center's website and see what's going on there. With that, might have some high winds and fire hazard today coming out of that area. Yeah, El Paso, Texas, you're near the extreme fire danger risk, so there's going to be high wind and fire concerns there, so keep that in mind in El Paso. But no severe weather risk. Let's see, just got that. Alright, we got Drew Ferguson's as well. Okay. Yeah, we did 44224. Okay, let's see. Do I think tomorrow could go moderate and with the late day outlook? It depends on what models do in the next little while. The Storm Prediction Center does another update for Sunday's outlook right after the stream, so around like 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central, I believe. I don't think they're going to drop a moderate on this yet. But if they have see something I don't and have a more confident corridor of some like 80 to 90 mile per hour gusts being a little bit more scattered at least, or even isolated, I guess, here in parts of south central Illinois heading into Indiana, Kentucky, we might see like a moderate try to get going there. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if the enhanced risk expands a little bit, though, and we also just see the marginal risk expand in a newer update. And then by tomorrow, I really think if the models continue to look like they are now, we'll see at least a small, moderate somewhere in the mix. Hello to you, Samuel Wilkinson Jr. Thanks for joining me. Let's see, 47082, 470 or 47802 there for Girl Dev there in Terre Haute, Indiana. Yeah, you're in the enhanced risk level 3 of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center. You're near my 5 of 7 on my ONW severe scale, so definitely a heightened risk for severe storms as we go into our Sunday here in Indiana. We could see an early day round, so heading through the middle of the morning to the noontime frame here, we will have some damaging winds, maybe isolated tornadoes and hail possible with this line here. Looks like mainly a damaging wind event, and again, that's going to be the story of Sunday, mainly damaging winds out of each cluster there with that midday cluster. And then as we head towards the late evening, heading into the middle of the night here, probably another cluster there. Again, mostly damaging winds, maybe isolated tornadoes and hail as well. I mean, if we go to the Storm Prediction Center's tornado outlook here for Sunday, here's our tornado outlook for then. It goes up to a 5%. You can see that kind of highlighted area there from Missouri down there to north central Tennessee. That's for within 25 miles of a point. But, I mean, look at what we've got here right now. I mean, this is not... Today's threat for tornadoes will be a lot higher in the plains than Sunday's threat will be over there in the Ohio Valley, as of what the models are showing right now. And I still don't think tomorrow's can get as high as the environment is in the plains right now. All right. Yeah, southwest Indiana, we basically just covered that area there with Girl Dev there. Let's look at 65516 for tonight. 65516 for tonight. They're in 65516. Is that a typo there? I don't see any. 66516. That's just me misreading that. I'm trying to look at the numbers on my phone. My apologies. Let's look at this here now. In northeastern Kansas, 66516. Yeah, northeastern Kansas there. Okay. In that area, we're going to be looking at some storms tonight, and yes, some of these could be particularly intense. Again, you can ask questions for Saturday and Sunday down there in the chat, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. If you're just now joining me here, we've got 200 people on the stream, just around 68 likes right now, so hit that like button for sure to support the stream. But let's see what we've got here for 66516 tonight. Here we go, let's play things out, and again, I think the worst storms are going to be probably as we head towards really the middle of the night and overnight hours in northeast Kansas. This is going to be a big convergence zone here on the borders of Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri. So this whole zone, a lot of wind, some isolated scattered hail, and then again, maybe some instances of tornadoes, especially the further south you go. You're kind of on that edge of the enhanced risk heading on out into the slight risk here. So this is where the Storm Prediction Center loses the confidence in the more numerous severe weather. On my ONW severe scale, I can go over and look at that real quick on my own end. Yeah, you're in a 4 of 7 on my scale for up there, so definitely some significant severe weather likely here, mainly in the form of some damaging winds. If we look at the Storm Prediction Center's, damaging wind outlook here for today, notice that's what's really driving the hazards the most the further north you go. Some of these gusts based on that dash line area could be over 75 miles per hour. So definitely be prepared there in northeast Kansas for that in the middle of the night tonight, even into the overnight, some storms, but isolated tornadoes and some hail of 1 to 2 inches diameter also not being able to be ruled out there. In fact, a few instances of hail might try to get closer to 3 inches, especially southwest of this line here. So you're kind of on the edge of where the hail and tornado threats really die down, but still some big hail and isolated tornado not out of the question. Once you get up to Nebraska and Iowa, that's when you're mainly talking wind and just isolated hail. Okay, let's see, Bloomington, Indiana, too. Well, glad your question got answered from that, right? Do you know if there's going to be any tornado threat near Denton, Texas? Yeah, there certainly will be at least a little bit of one northwest of Dallas in the Denton area. later today. There you are in Denton. The storms are definitely going to be during the late evening. You're probably going to be able, if you find like an open area as we head towards the end of the day today and you look towards the west around 5, 6, 7 o'clock Central Time, you'll probably see the towering cumulonimbus clouds with their anvil structures, which is just when they're spreading out with cirrus at the top. You'll be able to see that on off towards your west there from the Denton, Texas area. So certainly watch that there. You can do that safely, assuming you're already prepared for when the storms actually come to you. Definitely looks like around, say, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the evening. That's when some of the worst storms will progress towards the Denton, Texas area. Some of these will be especially capable not only of a brief tornado, which could be strong, especially the further north and west of Denton you go, but I think we're going to be watching big hail. That's going to be the main threat down here in north central Texas. And some of these hailstones could get on up there to 4 inches in diameter. I mean, look at that cell the HRRR model is showing there. Multiple models are showing this, and notice, I mean, the cell's definitely a supercell. You see those grains fanning out the other way. So you got the structure like this, and technically right in, if you get a little bit of an inflow notch, you can get a tornado. So supercell structure is here, so we're just seeing if we can go beyond the hail threat and maybe get a tornado or two. Again, you need to be weather aware between around 8 and 11 based on this right now. Oklahoma strong. I'm in Terre Haute, so we covered that for you there, James Brandon, because we were just kind of talking about southwest Indiana there. Let's see, again, and you can always rewatch. I was just talking about Indiana about 5 to 10 minutes ago if you want to rewatch that at all, if you missed it. Let's see. Yeah, usually the SPC issues a mesoscale discussion before a high risk is issued. You are exactly right on that, and I'm glad you pointed that out there. Spooky, scary skeleton Smith. Wow, talk about a tongue twister there for your channel. Yeah, Storm Prediction Center, we do not have a high-risk discussion going on right now. So it appears that today will remain a moderate risk in the new update that's going to occur, but that could expand or shift as we head towards the update within the next 15 to 20 minutes here. So we're live right now. This is 12:10 Eastern, 11:10 Central. We should be getting the new update from the Storm Prediction Center fairly soon, so we'll see what happens out of that. And if you're just now joining me, continue to hit that like button. We've got 265 live viewers right now, but 81 likes. The more likes you give, the more people get to see this stream. So that would really support and help me out here if you could do that. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. And again, if I miss any questions, let me know. Significant tornado parameters for Sunday. I can look at that, Girl Dev. We can look at that here. Remind me in a minute. I want to get a few more zip codes before we jump on over to any other discussions, because we've kind of already discussed the overall setup. Hello to Samuel Wilkinson, a girlfriend at Wartburg, Morgan Country, Tennessee. Let's see where that is. 37887 there. Wartburg, Tennessee. Let's see. Obviously, your threat's going to be Sunday, maybe even heading into Monday with storms that develop here. Let's look at Sunday's threat. Yeah, if you have any questions for Monday as well, you can ask those. Here we go. Yeah, damaging winds are going to be your main threat there, and we could see multiple rounds. One, if you get one, would be kind of towards the middle of the afternoon here in that area, even into the evening hours. You can see that there with some damaging winds in that zone, some 60, 70 mile per hour gusts not out of the question as these head east-southeastward. Some of those could be very particularly intense. I mean, look at what this model is showing moving down there towards, say, the foothills of North Carolina, down there in north central South Carolina. You know, that if this were to continue looking like this, that yellow slight risk area needs to shift over in their new outlook for tomorrow when that comes out a little later this afternoon. So we'll see what occurs, but East Central Tennessee, round 1 in the afternoon and evening. Another round probably overnight heading into early Monday, both with mainly damaging winds, but an isolated tornado or instance of hail also not out of the question. That's the big story Sunday. It's mostly, I keep saying that over again, damaging winds your main threat, then secondary threats of tornadoes and hail. 67226. Wichita, Kansas, man, you're in the bullseye of today's potential threat there in south central Kansas. Let's go on over to this. Here we go for today's setup. Yeah, you are in the moderate risk right now. Again, the Storm Prediction Center will update this soon. I think your best chance for some cells capable of all hazards, wind, hail, even some damaging tornadoes, that will come in around the late evening heading into the middle of the night tonight. So probably after about 8 Central, lasting through about midnight Central. That's when the storm should be at their particularly intense level there in Wichita. Then you'll see the lightning in the far eastern horizon after that. But you could see a briefly strong tornado. I mean, we could see an EF2, EF3, maybe even EF4 in this type of environment today in Kansas and Oklahoma. And again, the more supercells that form, the more chances of at least some modest tornadoes there will be. And again, the more of the storms, the lesser amount of storms, excuse me, the lower amount of storms that we have down in here in Texas, the more these are able to spawn on up here more into parts of Oklahoma and Kansas. But I mean, honestly, the more discrete these cells are, even though they're not impacting as many people, they're still producing probably tornadoes and huge hail, some of that hail 4 to 5 inches diameter. So that's the big concern with that. Wow, very interesting that you expect those upgrades, spooky, scary skeleton Smith. I don't know if the Storm Prediction Center is doing that kind of upgrade, though, for today, if I'm being quite honest with you at this time. Let's see. 46224. Speedway, Indiana, home of the Indy 500. Let's go on over there and see what's going on in that area as we get towards the day tomorrow. This will cover some of you who it seems like there's a lot of people watching from Indiana. I've mentioned that area multiple times. So as we head towards Sunday, that's your threat. It's going to be driven by the potential of a midday round for damaging winds and then a later day and evening and nighttime round of damaging winds. So here we go. Let's time this out. According to this particular model, again, I'm showing one model throughout this whole live stream. I mean, it's very likely that this could and can and will change. Through central Indiana down there to central Kentucky, this line of storms in the middle of the day will be what you'll have to watch there. That could cause disruptions middle of the day into the middle of the afternoon Sunday with damaging winds, maybe a brief spin-up tornado or instance of hail, and then the same kind of threats come with the line of storms that will be likely again as we head towards the middle of the evening and even towards the middle of the night here on our Sunday heading into early Monday. So we've really got to track this because this kind of setup is really going to be interesting here with the damaging winds. Again, if I miss any areas, let me know. Let's see, South Central Indiana, we just talked about that overall zone. I got Lincoln, Nebraska for you, Drew Ferguson, a little bit ago. I don't know if you... we were talking about the Lincoln, Nebraska area moments like 10 minutes ago or so. I covered that area for you. I definitely read that comment and hit that direct area. 35801. Let's move on to that. I haven't seen the zip code. Yeah, Huntsville, Alabama. We haven't talked about Alabama, Georgia, these areas quite as much. There will still be a threat, though, as we head towards Sunday for some of these storms to go rogue severe. That could happen today in a marginal way, but overall it's looking like as we head towards our Sunday, that's when the storm threat goes up to slight on a level 2 of 5 risk here from the Storm Prediction Center. We could see storms of some form on the southern end of that cluster that rides towards Greenville and Charlotte there, and it's North and South Carolina. As we head towards the middle of the afternoon and early evening on Sunday. But overall, it looks like there in northern Alabama, your risk for storms will come overnight Sunday heading into early Monday. And some of those, man, those could produce some damaging winds as well. And again, this is why I think the Storm Prediction Center has some major updates to do with the way these models are painting the damaging winds potentially going further south and east with multiple rounds here. So nighttime hours, watch out. I mean, destructive winds can be a big issue. Obviously, if storms are going to come in, you have a bedroom or, some sort of room where you might be sleeping that's near a huge tree that could fall down and uproot on top of your house or wherever you're going to be staying. I mean, you don't want that. So make sure you know the lowest, most interior room because damaging winds can be just as dangerous as tornadoes in many cases. So we just hit that area there, 35801. Let's move on to 46804. And I'm going to talk about some broad areas here as well. So if, kind of pay attention to the areas I'm talking about. Now we're in northeastern Indiana. If you live in northeastern Indiana right now, this is for you. Then I'll probably talk about a new area in just, 45 seconds. So pay attention because I might answer your question before you even have to put a zip code down in the chat. Hopefully, kind of the overall area where you're living and residing here. So here we go again, maybe around breaking up through the area around the middle of the afternoon on our Sunday. That could produce some gusty damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado. It looks like damaging winds of 60 miles per hour would be just an isolated threat that far north out of this line. And then you kind of stay north of the line, according to this model anyway, as we head towards the middle of the night as well. Sunday heading into early Monday. So right now, the model's not painting as much of a picture for the slight risk there. And again, I think this is why the Storm Prediction Center might really have a little bit of adjustments to do when they make their outlook updates middle of this afternoon here. Now let's see what the NAM is showing. We haven't even looked at the NAM model much in this stream. Yeah, same deal with the supercells back on off towards the plains, heading in the middle of the night. NAM does note that down there in north central Texas, we could still have some supercells overnight tonight, so that's something to watch. That's a little bit of a difference there. Overall, the overall picture goes about the same for tomorrow, though, and again, look, it shows that southern Indiana, southern Illinois, and north central Kentucky. Those are the areas where that really particularly damaging line of wind will be likely. I mean, that's the exact picture the HRR's picturing for late tomorrow evening as well. Not the exact same timing. The NAM looks a little faster, but the overall setup. Let's go back on over to the HRRR now. I'm glad there's not too much of a difference in those two. I'm going to skip the question, how's Michigan's weather for today, just because it's kind of invalid to the severe weather side of things. I'm just trying to answer people's questions on like severe weather setup, so I just kind of want to avoid that. So I apologize if I'm skipping you on that. But if you have any like direct, exact questions about like severe weather or timing, I can hit that. Let's see, Paris, Illinois, 61944. Let's get that question there. Paris, Illinois. Yeah, you're in that risk tomorrow. It looks like you're in, southeastern parts of Illinois. I think tomorrow you could certainly see some damaging winds out of those multiple lines of storms, one in the middle of the day. And then again here as we head towards the end of the day, into the evening, and overnight. Here we go. Let's look at the... No, we don't want the new run of the HRRR. We want the one I was looking at from just a couple hours ago that goes the full extension here. Come on now. Here we go. So if you live in eastern Missouri, southern Illinois, notice the timing tomorrow. Round 1 is in the morning, heading into the middle of the day, with damaging winds being the primary threat, maybe an isolated tornado or hail instance. And then there in that area of southeast Illinois that we're talking about right now, looks like damaging winds, hail, maybe an isolated tornado will be possible around that 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock time frame here Sunday, in the afternoon and into the evening. 42729. 42729. Cub Run, Kentucky. Sorry, trying to catch up on my hydration a little bit there. Cub Run, Kentucky, yeah, you're in the area. I think the Storm Prediction Center could upgrade for tomorrow. While you could see a line of storms that looks like it could move through with those hazards I've been talking about around the middle to late part of the afternoon, look at this. I think the worst storms will probably race your way. Middle of the night, after right around midnight and thereafter. So from south of Indianapolis all the way back down to western Tennessee, this line looks bad Sunday night heading into early Monday. And there in Kentucky, you could see some 70 to even 85 mile per hour wind gusts, possibly even numerous gusts above 60 miles per hour at least, as this line progresses on through. You're welcome for everybody who is saying thank you. I've probably missed some of these people who have said thank you to me responding to their comments. Don't forget to hit that like button. We've got 110 likes on this right now. That's a really high number. As always, the best way to support the channel is through liking, subscribing, and, if you're feeling generous, the super thanks chat box or whatever down below with the $ in the chat, but that's very optional. Let's see what else we've got here. Is the cap going to break for Tulsa tonight? There shouldn't even be much of a cap. Man, I've missed some comments. If you have already gotten your question answered or think your overall area has been answered for, try to kind of limit the zip codes here because I'm trying to sift through a lot at this time. 755, have I done 75501? I might have missed that one. 75501, Texarkana, Texas. How does it look for today and tomorrow? Heading into tomorrow, there will be a little bit of a risk. I think tonight you should be fine. Let's go back on over and play this out and make sure you're good tonight. Yeah, tonight you should be fine in Texarkana. Storm should weaken from the west, and then by the time they're to you, they should be done. Tomorrow, though, you could get a storm or two during the morning, but it looks like by the late afternoon and evening, that's when you would get a storm if you do. This is a very conditional slight risk back in this area for our Sunday. What we're looking at right now on screen is Sunday's outlook and Sunday's storms. Arkadelphia, Hot Springs, Little Rock, Arkansas, those areas looking to be more of the threat. And northeast of there. But again, we'll see if we could get threats. It would probably be mostly a wind and hail-driven threat in isolated fashion if we get anything down here. We did the Paris, Illinois one. I believe we did 42729. That was in Kentucky, right? Yeah, Cub Run. 74849. 74849. They're in Konawa, Oklahoma. Let's go over to there because we do have probably the moderate risk for the Storm Prediction Center today. We're about to get a new update from the Storm Prediction Center. We're kind of waiting on that right now as well. here on our Saturday. Waiting on that update here in central Oklahoma. But 74849, yeah, you're in the risk for the potential of some strong tornadoes, some very large hail up to 3 to 4 inches in diameter, and this will be in scattered fashion later today, maybe even some damaging winds. It looks like they'll impact you between around 8 and 11 central based on the current look. And, while it shows that cell that's over you in this graphic breaking up, we don't know exactly where the broken cells are going to be and where the stronger ones are going to be, okay? The storm that's showing itself out up here in Bartlesville, that could be down here. That storm that's up there in Wichita, that could be a little to the east at this time of 10 to 11 o'clock, or to Emporia. There can be little changes in these models. I can't stress that enough. But, yeah, middle of the evening, heading to the middle of the night, be on high alert there in eastern Oklahoma. Really, the timing tonight is going to be kind of 8 to maybe 11 in this area here. And then from there, we're starting to get towards the middle of the night eastward. And it looks like Texas storms will break up after midnight. But up here in parts of Kansas, Missouri, southern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, that's where things will continue to be strong. Let's see, 62522 on Sunday, please. 655. Jeez, I can't type. 6522. 62522. Jeez. Decatur, Illinois, yeah, you're going to be in a damaging wind threat. That's your primary hazard. I can't stress this enough, and I feel like I've gone through this like a million times for the Midwest and Ohio Valley. So if you're just now joining me and you're in these areas, it seems like we've got a lot of people worried about Sunday's threat. So let's just talk about this. I'm going to break this down, okay? Hopefully this answers a lot of your questions. If I see a zip code that's in any of like Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm just going to kind of skip it because we're going to go over all this right now. Overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning, there's going to be this line of storms rumbling out of Missouri, probably into Illinois. Some damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado or instance of hail will also be possible as this line progresses to the east, especially through southeast Missouri and southern Illinois, eventually heading towards Indiana and Kentucky as the afternoon rolls, late morning into the early afternoon rolls on here. That's where we'll be watching that continued threat. In fact, a lot of Indiana could be impacted by that. Then the southern end of that will probably spark some new storms over parts of Kentucky, Tennessee. Again, damaging winds the main threat, secondary threats for tornadoes or hail. Some of this will push into other areas east of the marginal risk zone from the Storm Prediction Center that probably need to be included in that marginal risk. And then back to the west, we'll probably have a new round of storms that will at least have enough instability, even behind the older storms, to still get going. So from Indianapolis back to Springfield, Illinois, to St. Louis, Missouri, to central Arkansas, this whole area will be lit up with a mix of clusters of storms right when the sun goes down Sunday evening, as well as some supercells, especially the closer you go down here to the Ohio River Valley, I think. And everything will converge with extremely damaging winds possible, and possibly a risk upgrade for those if we continue to see this trend heading out of Illinois through southern Indiana and into parts of western Kentucky. This is in the middle of the night Sunday heading into early Monday. From there, all these yellow and green areas further southeast continue to be impacted, so after midnight, a lot of these areas will see the storms. Sunday heading into early Monday. So that's what we've got there. I see a super chat question, so we're going to get to that one real quick, and then we'll get to some of the rest of the other questions. How will Cincinnati fare? Cincinnati, Ohio, let's take a close look at you. Yeah, you're on the northern end of that enhanced, and we could see multiple rounds of storms as we head into the day on Sunday here. Yeah, if you have like a dire need for your question, certainly feel like you can put it in there a couple times. Just don't spam your question. And also super chats are always appreciated like that. Down here in southwestern parts of Ohio, we'll probably see some storms in the middle of the day tomorrow, heading into the middle of the afternoon. We'll definitely be watching some damaging winds, maybe some isolated hail, and tornado potential along this. Again, it's probably going to be mostly damaging wind driven with some 60 to 70 miles per hour gusts and 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts there. Then that moves out, and then look at our next line. That will probably be in the middle of the night. Will be fizzling as it heads towards Cincinnati. I would expect Cincinnati to stay kind of on the edge of the enhanced and the slight risk right now, and risk upgrade should stay back down here. We will see if that changes, but right now, Cincinnati looks like it's going to be kind of out of the worst pocket of the extremely intense wind gusts. But, kind of the max for the wind gusts there is closer to 70 overall, where areas further southwest, it'll probably be closer to 90. Not saying you couldn't get that, I just think these storms will be more prominent with, like, some winds, kind of closer to 60 to 70 in a place like Cincinnati, Ohio. So let's see, 72370. 72370. Again, we're getting a lot of questions. We're getting a lot of stuff in the chat right now. So if you want to make yours stand out, Super Chat's always there. I try to put it down there multiple times if you need to. We're also doing a lot of coverage for Saturday as well. So I hope you can understand here. With me just being one person, we're trying to answer a lot of questions at once and flow on through this. But it looks like Arkansas, you could get some rounds of storms with potential even supercell looking structure. Hail could be a big problem there, even as we head towards the late day tomorrow. And then heading out of that area, more storms in the middle of the night, Sunday going to early Monday. Damaging winds, primary threat at that point. We've talked about Lincoln, Nebraska for tonight. It does look like storms will be in the middle of the night, continuing even into the overnight hours with a lot of damaging winds, some hail, and then maybe even a couple tornado possibilities. Let's see. 64801 Joplin, Missouri. We've kind of missed out on like southwest Missouri at times here throughout the stream, but it looks like tomorrow, if you get any storms, they'll probably be in the early morning. In fact, it looks like after midnight tonight, that's when the worst storms will be in the Joplin, Missouri area. Some of these producing some very big hail, the potential for some damaging winds, and then we'll also at least have some isolated tornadoes to contend with possibly in that area. And then after that tomorrow, you might be in the clear. It really looks like you could be, but at least some spotty storms that could go severe in the afternoon. All right, let's jump ahead to the day 3 outlook for Monday. I see a 21502, and I want to jump over to that. I've probably missed some other zip codes. Again, I apologize for that. We're trying to get to as many as possible, but we also want to talk about stuff we haven't talked about yet. We have not talked about Monday's setup yet. So let's just do a brief overview of Monday's. Storm Prediction Center goes up to a level 1 to 2 out on their scale to 5 for Monday. Here we go. You can see, you're on the edge of that slight risk, and it certainly looks like storms will be possible firing up Monday afternoon. The threats will probably be driven by the chance for some isolated scattered wind gusts around 60 to 65 miles per hour in these storms. Maybe an isolated tornado, maybe some isolated hail. Again, I think in parts of Maryland, really through Virginia, through North Carolina, back up to Pennsylvania, all these zones, it's going to be especially wind-driven by the time we head towards Monday. Let's see. All right, I'm going to jump back over to some of the questions we've missed. Feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I already hit you, Severe Storm Filmer, with your question about like 20 minutes ago when you asked. 43215. Columbus, Ohio. Let's see what you've got there. All right, again, I probably missed some, and I really apologize for that. Chat box just trying to skip around. We could have some storms late Monday, but your storms tomorrow will be the primary hazard. I think you're in an enhanced risk, right? Yeah, enhanced risk for severe weather. Actually, no, it's just your southwest. You're on the edge of the slight risks. Enhanced risk is just southwest of you by a little bit further. And we will have the potential there for some damaging winds out of any storms that do develop. Maybe isolated hail or a tornado, but I do think the tornado threat's going to be very low in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow. We could have a round of storms into the evening, and then another one into the overnight and heading into early Monday. But you notice the trend out of both of these lines there in Columbus, Ohio, and they're both kind of breaking on down. Both lines breaking down through that area, Sunday heading into Monday. 43215. Oh, I just hit that one. Duh. What about 40324? Let's see that one. 40324. Georgetown, Kentucky. The north central Kentucky area. Yeah, tomorrow, I think these storms will be weakening based on this trend overnight tomorrow, but we will have multiple rounds of storms. Let's start. You really need to be weather aware all afternoon and evening over a lot of the Ohio Valley because of the potential for supercells then morphing into those line segments. But as you can see here, this is, say, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We could have a line of storms with damaging winds being the primary hazard, and then maybe isolated hail or tornado threat. Again, middle of the afternoon, Sunday here. And I will answer your questions for Saturday if anybody has those as well. Then notice maybe a supercell trying to run up there through central Kentucky, some of these areas closer to the Ohio River Valley. That I've been mentioning that late Sunday heading into the early Monday time frame. But it looks like damaging winds will be the primary threat there in north central Kentucky. And I would expect you to stay in an enhanced risk based on this. I'd expect the moderate risk to mainly kind of stay back over here, but we'll see if you could try to get into moderate risk from the Storm Prediction Center, the level 405. I just think if the Storm Prediction Center drops one, it's going to be over here because of the way these segments are kind of bowing out and then weakening out as they head your way at the same time. Okay. Yeah, they're late on the... They tend to be a few minutes late on some of the new outlooks, especially when they're maybe making changes, shifting things around, Drew Ferguson. So today's new outlook for areas in the plains will certainly probably be a little late. Oh, they're doing a couple of upgrades for the day one outlook for today, you say? Let's see what they're doing here. Now do we have any new discussions here? Yeah, we don't have any mesoskill discussions for them to be doing high risks though. Normally they put like a high-risk discussion down. So for today, Saturday, again, I think the threat's remaining moderate unless they just change stuff. You're very welcome, Mary Ann Gunter. And thanks again to Mary Ann Gunter for your super chat just a minute ago, $5. Sorry, I missed that while answering questions. And the $10 super chat for Cincinnati was also very much appreciated. Pink Oklahoma for today. Let's get to that question here since we haven't talked about the Saturday threat here in a little while. Then we'll go back over to Sundays in a moment for Drew Crouch's question. Again, I've probably covered a lot of areas if you want to go back. I did do an overview of both Saturday and Sunday's threats, like at the very start of the stream, if once we finish this you want to go back and re-watch. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Or you'll have to watch that if you missed. Sorry, I just got a little discombobulated there. But here we go. Looking through parts. You don't have to be sorry, Marianne Gunter. What happened? I greatly appreciate your donation. Wichita down to Oklahoma City there and parts of Kansas down to Oklahoma as well. Later today, big storms, okay? So Pink, Oklahoma, let's find out exactly where that is. Pink, Oklahoma. Pink, Oklahoma, there you are. Yeah, they're in central Oklahoma later today. You will have the potential around 7, 8, 9 o'clock central for some big supercells with damaging wind, but especially big hail, some 3 to 4 to 5 inch in diameter. Very destructive hail. You'll want your car under a carport or garage if that's possible and you have one. And then you keep that in mind as well with huge tornado potential if we get supercells to move through. And these could be EF3, EF4 tornadoes in the type of environment we're in later today. So I want you to be very prepared for that. If you're in central Oklahoma to southern Kansas late today here on our Saturday. Again, we're still waiting, I think, on the Storm Prediction Center's new update for today. They're late on that update, and I'm going to call them out for it too. I'm getting impatient with this update right now. It should be out at this point. This outlook that's on screen right now is over 4 hours old at this point. We need a new one. Oh, you typed OW in instead of ONW, and you're sorry for that. You're good. What will the weather be like? Let's see what else we've got. Oh, you're good, Severe Storm Filmer. Well, Northeast Ohio tomorrow, I think you could get some clusters later in the day. I talked about there could be briefly some damaging wind. I don't think the hail or tornado threat will be too high. Okay, let's go back on over here, see what else we've got. 39183. And again, if I'm missing any locations, if I haven't overviewed any locations, please let me know, because I will talk about some new areas. But you can also go back and rewatch some parts of the stream later, if need be. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a risk for some severe storms today. These will be mainly wind, hail concerns. But as we go into the day tomorrow, and really even maybe Monday, they're in Mississippi. You'll have to watch some storms. Late tomorrow night, these storms will be sagging south towards your area, and you can see them there. Look like they'll be weakening, but yeah, that they should be weakening out. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center, I'm happy with their end of the marginal risk right there, because that looks like when the storms will fizzle out. Heading overnight Sunday into early Monday there is when we're talking about in Mississippi and Alabama. Any continuing storms that move out of the enhanced risk Sunday will probably continue through central Tennessee into northern Alabama and Georgia. Those will be the particularly intense ones into early Monday. Strong tornadoes, I don't think that's very likely in Indiana tomorrow, but I wouldn't rule it out, especially if you go closer to the Ohio River. It would be a very isolated instance, though. How does 75662 look? 75662, Kilgore, Texas. Let's see what's going on there. Northeast Texas, you'll miss out on the storms today, almost positive on that, and tomorrow you'll probably miss out as well. You're really kind of chilling in the middle of what's going to occur, because look, it happens to your west and northwest today, and then tomorrow, heading into Sunday, it kind of heads east of you. So you're just going to kind of be in the middle of everything. Thank you to KDUBZ27 for thanking me for the coverage. Thank you. Let's see. We should have a new update coming from the Storm Prediction Center here any minute. Their update should be in fairly soon. You're welcome, Samuel Wilkinson. Thank you to everybody again who is getting those updates. If you're new to this channel, I do typically some videos. We also do occasional live stream updates just like this one, so you can subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. That always helps me out. That's the best way to support the work I do here. Subscribing's always appreciated. Normally the upload schedule for videos is like every other day. They're about 10 to 15 minutes long. Do I think Greenfield tornado will stay EF4? Some of that damage looks very intense, but yeah, well, I mean, I think it's right now. I might be mistaken, but I believe the Greenfield, Iowa tornado was an EF, lower end EF4, I believe. I don't want to say that like... let me look at something real quick, and I'll get back to you on that. That is a good question, though. Takes me a little bit off the severe weather coverage, though, doesn't it? I think it was towards the lower end of the EF4. I don't think it's going to go up to F5, but I might be wrong. Terrible damage, though, and prayers up for those people for sure. Let's see what we've got here. 65803. 65803, Springfield, Missouri. Yeah, there's going to be a couple rounds there. Late tonight in the overnight hours, that's going to be round one. Particularly damaging wind could be a very big concern there. We're not looking at today and tonight's outlook right now, but certainly late tonight, tomorrow. And then here we go again towards... It'll be interesting. There are some spotty storms, maybe with wind, hail, and potentially a brief tornado in isolated fashion late Sunday. But I think tonight's storms are your bigger concern, because if we go back to them... I mean, look at that in the overnight hours of tonight, heading into early Sunday. Some of those damaging winds and hail, big threats for that. And then possibly a tornado. We're still waiting on the risk from the Storm Prediction Center, aren't we? Still waiting on that update. I'm just going to keep reloading this page until I get that update. Okay, I think they did update it now, because they added a small slight risk in Alabama and Georgia, didn't they? Okay, we finally got the new risk from the Storm Prediction Center for today, and guess what? It hasn't changed much. Here, I can try and see if it's updated here on Radar Omega yet. I believe it has not yet. The new risk for today, Saturday, May 25th of 2024. You're welcome, Marcy Nance. Yeah, they moved the enhanced into Dallas. The tornado threat still staying northwest of Dallas, but the big hail threat expanding now. Okay. The enhanced risk, even though you can't see it on screen right now, this is where the enhanced risk kind of goes now, and the slight just kind of goes out just a little further now. The slight didn't go out much further, but yeah, moderate has been maintained as I expected and discussed earlier. Again, I think the confidence in enough coverage of supercells to produce, like, I don't think there's going to be based on the current timing. I mean, we can see what the latest run of the HRRR is showing for later today. This will be a short run. It's not going to go out further than like 10 to 12 hours, but we can play it out anyway. Let's see what it does with this. Yeah, I mean, we see that same thing. Some big damaging hailstorms, not like long-lived, intense supercells in most cases. There could still be a couple. It just doesn't look widespread enough. That's why they're keeping the moderate and not going with the high. So glad that risk outlook finally came out. So again, I mean, these supercells late today on Saturday are going to be the concern here, and then damaging winds are going to be a concern in this area, particularly tomorrow. And again, Drew Crouch, I don't know if you're still watching me right now. I know you normally comment to me from Western Kentucky. We haven't talked much about Western Kentucky in particular. There could be some really intense damaging winds late tomorrow. Multiple rounds, one during the afternoon or early afternoon and late morning tomorrow, and then into the middle of the night Sunday, heading into early Monday. And that late night round could be the one that brings the particularly high winds, some of them over 70, 80 miles an hour. Have to travel from Montgomery, Alabama to Wichita, Kansas by Monday afternoon. What risks and when is a good time to drive? So Monday afternoon. By Monday afternoon, like when? So are you doing this Monday or are you doing this tomorrow? Like when? Or are you asking like when during this whole time frame is the best time to drive? If you could specify that, I'll get back to you in a second. 21502. 21502. Cumberland, Maryland. Oh, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a 10% hatch tornado risk. Storm Prediction Center's wording for the Monday time frame, which we're looking at now, while there will be probably some severe risk, mainly based on damaging winds, and there could be a few tornadoes here, their wording is that there's going to be damaging wind clusters late Monday that push offshore. So that tells me there's going to be some scattered 50 to 60 to 70 mile per hour winds heading like this in storms as we head towards late Monday. So I really don't see much of a 10% tornado risk there in western Maryland on Monday. That's the good news. Anytime till then, let's ride. Well, let's see. Let's look at your timing for storms from Montgomery, Alabama. Where are you going, Montgomery, Alabama to Wichita, Kansas? Well, first of all, I wouldn't recommend heading to Wichita today. Let's put it that way. It's going to be pretty intense in terms of the storms there. Glad you're trusting me with this forecast, though. Definitely put me on the spot with this one. Very good question, though. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I mean, I think everything's going to be staying... There's going to be some storms in Montgomery later today. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily travel today. But heading into tomorrow, I mean, if you take like a route that kind of goes like, if you can go like that and under these storms tomorrow, you'll probably be fine. Because there probably won't be many storms on our late Sunday. So you could probably sink under those and beat them before they sink southeastward into your area on Monday. So if you leave sometime during the afternoon tomorrow, Sunday, travel a corridor to like Dallas and then head north, then I don't know if that's like the normal, easiest route, but that would probably work. You're welcome, Drew Crouch. Mike McKinney says 7-3, or we've got 74848 before that. Let's see what that is. Holdenville, Oklahoma. Let's see if the new Storm Prediction Center Outlook has loaded into Radar Omega here now for today. Apparently no Outlook's going to pop up now. Isn't that lovely? I mean, y'all see me clicking this, right? Apparently there's no Outlook. Anyway, you're on the edge of the moderate and enhanced risk for today, I believe, and your supercell potential will come probably around the middle of the night tonight, but probably there just before as well, so around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And they will be weakening as they head your way, but still some potential for tornadoes, and especially big hail, maybe some damaging wind. You're welcome, let's ride. Is Vermilion County in Illinois at risk? If you could do me a favor and tell me a city, or just, a city in that area, then please do that, because I don't think I can type in a county on Radar Omega. I might be wrong, though. Let's try this. Yeah, it's not giving me that. We'll wait on that for a second. Hit that like button, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you're just new. And probably because they changed the outlook on Storm Prediction Center. That must be why this is taking a while to load it up. There we go. Here's today's new outlook. There's the one that includes Dallas as well. You're welcome, Favor. Let's see, 19020 there in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Yeah, you're probably east of the severe storm risk today, but you could get some brief overnight storms and showers. Your main risk for storms will come Monday. In the Joplin metropolitan area, we've talked about this area multiple times. Tomorrow, while there could be some late day storms tomorrow, the risk you're looking at here is for Saturday and today, Saturday, and then into today and tonight. This is overnight tonight on our Saturday night heading into early Sunday, southwest Missouri. Definitely some big hail and wind, maybe even an isolated tornado out of these storms there. 61832 in Danville there in Illinois. Let's see what's going on up there. Looks like you'll get a round of storms midday tomorrow, some damaging winds and isolated tornadoes possible along that. Then your next round, if you get one, will probably be just especially south of you, but middle of the night, Sunday heading into early Monday. 43727. The day 2 update will be in about 40 minutes, Severe Storm Filmer, if it's on time. There was one about 5 days ago, a day 2 update that came almost 30 minutes late, so I'm sure they'll be behind on that too. But it should be by 1:30 Eastern. Over there in Ohio tomorrow, let's go over to your risk because this is going to be your... Well, there could be some brief severe storms this afternoon. That looks, isolated in nature. Same tomorrow, isolated in nature. So isolated severe storms late today. You can see those rumbling around the area, damaging winds and hail possible. And then we'll see more rumbling around with that same kind of setup late Sunday. And that could come in some multiple rounds into the night as well, into early Monday. 75087. Rockwall, Texas. Let's see there. Yeah, they'll probably be weakening as they come towards you tonight. But still some big hail possible this evening there. Looks like if we get anything, that's probably going to be as we head towards... Oops. For some reason, this model shows a random supercell tomorrow morning. That's weird. But anyway, it would be around the middle of the evening, so 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And maybe even just thereafter, towards the midnight. As always, liking, subscribing, and then obviously secondary super chats. Those are the best way to support the channel. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to get a cord for something I need to set up in here real quick. So if you can, everybody can hold tight for about 30 seconds. I'm going to do that. I will get to all questions here again momentarily. We're just unplugging and rearranging a few things if I can here. Okay, we're back. Just plugging some stuff in real quick, and then we're going to be back to some of the questions here momentarily. Let me know if you can hear me with a thumbs up in the chat real quick, please. Setting some stuff back up here. Okay. I'll probably run this stream for about 45 more minutes. I want to wait till that new update comes out at hopefully 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central for our Ohio Valley region. This is a forecasting channel, by the way, so I'm not like live during severe events. So I'm not live during the storms, but I do like the forecast in advance like this so that people are prepared ahead of them. That's the whole goal here. Because you can find live coverage on several other channels, but what there's a lot lacking of is like the coverage within the few hours before the event and before it starts. So that's what we're doing here. Appreciate all of you there who are subscribing, hitting the like button. And again, I appreciated those earlier super thanks from Mr. Civ Weather Chaser. How will Cincinnati fare? That was his question there. And then the super chat there from, or the sticker from Mary Ann Gunter. Okay, let's get back out of that. All right, we're all set up now. Thanks to everybody for letting me know that you can hear me again. I was just plugging in my computer so we had a longer charge and it didn't have to struggle as much here. Okay, let's see what our next questions are here. Thanks so much, Dawn Allstat. I wouldn't expect a slight risk in Northeast Ohio next update, severe storm filmer. Do I think this will stay moderate the rest of today? Here's what I think is going to happen. When does the Storm Prediction Center do their... Okay, they do their next update. Technically, they're supposed to do it around 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. I wouldn't rule out that they put out a moderate or a high when they do the update later. So around 4 Eastern, 3 Central. I think it depends on what's occurring by then. I mean, I almost wish that update were to occur around, like, I don't know. I almost feel like it's too late for them to put out a high. I think it's possible if they see something alarming and new that's popping up in the environment. But with this setup, I mean, it looks broad for some supercells, especially some big hail driving the threat. Then you've got that, some big tornadoes also possible. But again, the tornadoes just don't look like there's going to be quite enough cells to produce extremely high amounts of tornadoes. All it takes is one. Keep that in mind. But again, I think it's going to be a little more here and there to the point where this isn't like high worthy. But again, these storms are of high risk caliber, but they're not in enough coverage to warrant the high risk. That's what's going on here. Can I do 62025 for tomorrow? Yes, I can. Edwardsville, Illinois. And again, a lot of these areas I did do an overview at the start of the stream if anybody wants to rewatch that. I did talked about Saturday for about 10 minutes and then Sunday for like 6 to 8 minutes as well. Yeah, tomorrow you'll have the midday round of storms. I feel like I have been going over this area quite a lot. Probably the early to mid-morning round of storms there. And then a little bit of a break. Storms start firing again by middle of the afternoon. And then you get more storms through the rest of the afternoon and evening. Most storm hazards will be damaging winds at any point throughout the day, but there will be the threat, especially in the afternoon and evening, for an isolated tornado. And some hail. Five zero or 27370. That is in Trinity, North Carolina. Not too far from you. I'm down here in South Carolina. It does look like there could be some isolated severe storms late tomorrow if things continue to look like this. There could also be a few scattered garden variety thunderstorms today, Saturday. And then as we head into tomorrow, Sunday, some storms here or there. And some of these could be severe late Sunday. And that's why I think the Storm Prediction Center needs to... If Storm Prediction Center is making any big changes to an outlook, it might be the Sunday one. If this continues to look like this. And And then as we head towards Monday, again, there will be the potential for more like this, some damaging wind clusters of storms in North Carolina. Maybe some hail as well. Will a major severe weather outbreak happen on Sunday? Probably to an extent with damaging wind, yes. I don't know if it's going to be like a tornado outbreak, though. I missed 50131. Johnston, Iowa. Yeah, you're probably south of the worst risks, both today and tonight, and tomorrow. But up there in the Des Moines area, you're kind of on the edge of a level 1, and it does look like there will be the potential for some gusty winds, some small hail to moderately sized hail near 1 inch to 2 inches in diameter out of some of these storms. Then you kind of catch a break. Jonesboro, Arkansas for tomorrow. Let's look at that. Alright, I've been covering a lot of areas. You can go back to the start of the stream to rewatch. I want to kind of slow down the zip codes just a little bit here. It's been a little bit of an overload at times. So if you can just hold off on zip codes in the chat just for a minute here. I just want to catch up on some of the ones I'm doing. I might answer your question in the process, and then we're going to get back to a few more in a minute. But let's cover the ones I do have in the chat right now, and then we'll move on to a few more in a second. I am just one person trying to answer a bunch of questions. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I was doing Jonesboro, Arkansas for tomorrow. Let's turn on that outlook for Sunday. Jonesboro, Arkansas. Here we go for tomorrow. According to this model anyway, you'll miss some of the morning storms, but they'll be close to you, so keep an eye out all day tomorrow. Looks like if you get anything, it'll be during the middle to the late part of the afternoon. That looks like a supercell structure, so we'll have some supercells in the mix here, trying to move towards your northeast probably throughout the day, late day tomorrow. So maybe some damaging winds, some hail, and a isolated tornado possible out of that. Looks like it'll form more of a line segment, and that's the story again. The story of Sunday, I keep saying this over and over again, everything turns to line segments quickly. That's been the trend all along. The NAM model was showing it. Now the HRRR's latest guidance is showing it. Line segments, and from Jonesboro and Little Rock in Arkansas all the way up to southeastern parts of Missouri, northwestern parts of Kentucky, southern parts of Illinois, south central parts of Indiana. This whole line, some point in the middle of tomorrow evening, middle of tomorrow night, this whole area, really from about here to about right here. If you're in this box that I'm doing right here, this is the middle of tomorrow night. You're getting some big storms, and before that, these will have been initiating with maybe a little bit of even more tornado potential before that. So just, this whole area, there's going to be a lot of lines, and there could be multiple lines because remember that morning one sagged southeastward as well. New subscriber, Deborah Jones says, thanks so much for being here. Let's get the question before you, and then we'll answer yours. And then again, we're trying to hold off on zip codes here just for a minute so I can catch up on the ones I do have right now. In Abilene, Texas. Abilene. See what we've got going on there today. Get over to the latest outlook here. Today's probably not going high risk, but I wouldn't be surprised. It depends on what they see. It would take something surprising for them to do that now. Abilene, Texas, you might get missed today, but if a supercell, a loner, tries to form down here, you could easily get 2 to 4 inch diameter hail, and even a brief tornado or instance of some damaging winds, so please keep that in mind there. I apologize if you're a storm filmer, but I can't answer a million questions for Northeast Ohio. I'm sorry. 62704, Springfield. Again, this will be the late day cluster tomorrow. The one we just talked about. This one here. You're welcome, Hoops. Here we go, yeah. So midday to mid-morning tomorrow, there could be some severe storms, okay? But those will be mainly damaging wind. And the same will go with any storms here in clusters with wind, maybe even some hail. Some of these, we might get an upgrade on the hail threat for tomorrow back over here if we get especially some more of those mixed mode include supercell clusters back over here. As we get towards the end of our Sunday, before those begin heading eastward and turning into more of that damaging wind line as the night rolls on. Oklahoma today, again, we're watching those supercells this evening over a lot of this area right here. A lot of them will move through between around 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock this evening before kind of fizzling out over here. Storms will then continue into Kansas, Missouri with especially damaging wind threats. But there will be an all hazards threat in parts of Oklahoma and North Texas, and that will include the threat for some particularly dangerous tornadoes. Wouldn't be surprised if we get like a tornado emergency or two issued by the National Weather Service of south central Kansas as well as into Oklahoma today. Okay, let's see. 45334. Ooh, that was the wrong one. 45334. Jackson Center, Ohio. Yeah, tomorrow you will be in the northern fringe of these risks for severe weather. You could get some scattered damaging winds around the later part of the afternoon. And then again, you could get some more storms tomorrow night. Again, damaging winds will be a primary hazard, and that's the main threat of any storms on Sunday. Let me go through an overview of Sunday, okay? If you're asking any questions about zip codes on Sunday, pay attention now, because we're going to do an overview of Sunday. Sunday's been in very high demand in the chat, so we're going to do that. Here's your tornado risk Sunday. It's not zero, but it's mainly focused in this corridor right here. It does not look extreme, but it does look like we might get a small upgrade somewhere down here closer to the Ohio River in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and northwestern parts of Kentucky. If we get a strong tornado, it's probably going to be somewhere heading out of this area here. We might also see this tornado risk try to expand a little bit in Missouri. Don't know if the tornado risk should go this far southeast, but anyway, it's probably going to stay there anyway because the Storm Prediction Center's already done that now. Let's move on here to the wind threat for tomorrow. This is what's driving the hazards. You see that dashed line area. Let's change the pen to black to match it up here. You see that right there. I'm circling it now. They're in central, heading out of east central Missouri into south central Illinois, southwestern parts of Indiana, and into central parts of Kentucky tomorrow. This hatched area, damaging winds, some of them well over 70 miles per hour possible here. And we will be watching even some 80 to 90 miles per hour gusts, possibly through this zone as this kind of swath of Boeing storms in 9, 10, 11, 12 tomorrow evening. We'll be moving through. If we get an upgrade from the Storm Prediction Center, which as I'm doing this right now at 1:05 Eastern, 12:05 Central here, I would not be surprised if this tries to kind of transition with some higher wind and they upgrade this to like a 45% moderate for damaging winds somewhere down here closer to south central Illinois, south central Indiana, and northwestern Kentucky. This zone right here is kind of the target zone I would watch that for. And here I'll show you why. That is why right there. And I'd also not be surprised if this red area expands a little bit more if these storms continue to look like this, and then the 5% for damaging winds also goes further out like this way because of these storms coming off the Appalachians. We're honestly really just sitting around waiting on the new update from the Storm Prediction Center at this point for tomorrow as well. So that's the setup going into Sunday. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions. For Saginaw, Michigan, I see that question. You're pretty much north of the severe weather risks there. But tomorrow, like late afternoon, it looks like you could get a few storms. And, they could bring some rumbles of thunder and locally gusty winds, I guess. We've got Weather on the Go in the chat. Say hello to him. He's got an awesome channel over there. He's almost to 100,000 subscribers as well. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, yeah, you think they won't upgrade for tomorrow yet? Yeah, I'm kind of circling an area that I overall think they will eventually possibly upgrade. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to update it now. I do think they have the means to expand the enhanced risk now, though. Like, they could expand it like this, I do believe. Feel free to drop your opinion on that down there as well, Weather on the Go, or Hunter, right? I think you can drop, like, this area, really, in the enhanced, really. Or at least kind of curling on down here with some of these. You're very welcome, Rain Dancing. Thanks so much for the $10 super chat there. Everybody leave a little thumbs up on their chat there. Hit that thumbs up button for him. Could Saginaw be severe? I mean, you're out of the severe risk in Saginaw, but I wouldn't rule out a few of these. I think this marginal risk heading into Sunday could regionally, you see that kind of expansion there of some of these storms kind of making their way out of the area. The marginal risk could need to include some of these areas I just outlined, to be quite honest, heading towards late Sunday and into early Monday. So Saginaw, Michigan, be on the lookout. I just don't think like major severe storms are looking likely either. Again, you're on the outer edge of that risk. So at this point, you're just kind of waiting to see if anything can kind of progress out of Indiana, Ohio, head that way. Could be some small to medium-sized hail in those storms, if they're severe. But again, these are the main ones we're going to be watching late tomorrow. I mean, it looks like once the sun goes down, these storms are going to be ramping on up out of Missouri, out of Illinois, out of Indiana, heading towards the southeast eventually here. Should have been using this white pen all along. It's really easy to see on this graphic here. And really all of these storms here looking particularly strong. Some of these could be a little bit more discreet back into Missouri and Arkansas, and that's why those will also have to be watched late Sunday. Ready for Monday? Hoop says, yeah. Sunday's going to be a long day for Illinois, and I do agree with you on that. There will be multiple rounds. The morning round, depending on how this continues to look on the models, the morning round could be a little particularly intense here. But it'll definitely begin to ramp on up some more with new storms later in the day. Let's see what Weather on the Go just said. MCSs can be tricky. With this type of pattern, MCSs typically try to propagate more southeast than east as instability is higher further into the Tennessee Valley. Yeah. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the stream as well. You probably weren't here during that part, but like some of these storms that get going during the mid part of the day here, Sunday, these storms, a lot of these are trying to look for more of that energy, and in the morning there's not as much in Chicago as there is in Nashville, Tennessee. So a lot of these storms are going to kind of have to work into this area a little bit more, and that's why I think areas like Nashville, Tennessee could be expanded a little bit more into the wind threat for tomorrow. Notice how some of those like mid-afternoon storms really sink on through south-central Kentucky and then begin at sagging southeastward towards the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina. And then we also notice the new development back to the northwest once the daytime heating recovers and gets going up there. And, again, some of these particularly intense back on up in parts of especially the Ohio Valley and mid-Mississippi Valley. Today for 74344 today. Back on over there to Grove, Oklahoma. Let's talk a little bit again about today's severe weather threat. In fact, we haven't done like the overview for our Saturday threat in a little bit, so let's just kind of rehash back through that. Storm Prediction Center, really if you're in this yellow area, especially you need to be on the highest alert for severe weather today. At least all the way on up to South Dakota, there is some risk for some severe storms. Here we go. Let's talk about your area for tonight. It looks like we're going to have some supercells off to your west prior to midnight. Once we get to the middle of the night tonight, that's when storms will be at least possible there in northeast Oklahoma. Does look like they'll be isolated in nature. Some of them will be especially more heavily clustered on up there in eastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, where some more damaging winds and hail will be possible, as well as isolated tornadoes. If you get a supercell to make it to eastern Oklahoma, you are in that area of the slight and enhanced risk, so it will be possible to get a tornado or two, and especially some huge hail. It's interesting to see how this shapes up overnight tonight, though, because there will be probably some storms near Joplin, at least according to this model. And again, the exact placement of these storms is unknown. That storm that's showing in Joplin right there, that could easily be at least as far south as like central Oklahoma and far northwestern Arkansas. The new severe storm outlook from the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow will be coming out at 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central Time. Let's see, 65721. You're good, Hoops. I'm just going to get to this zip code question real quick first, and then we'll. But when do I think the updated model will be released? The updated model runs from the HRRR, they update every hour, but the full run that we'll go through tomorrow will come out in like a few hours when I'm done streaming. I'll probably do some sort of community post later today, though. So let's see. Here's your area, southwest Missouri, and again, it's going to be overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning when big hail will be especially a hazard. Some 2 to 3 inch hail possible even overnight tonight out of some of these storms in southwestern parts of Missouri. We'll also be watching the potential for some damaging wind of 60 to 70 miles per hour in scattered fashion. Few gusts could even try to push upwards of 75 to 80 miles per hour if this turns into a little bit more of that backwards C-shaped bowing segment, which these storms are in a fairly good environment for doing so. Other than that, tomorrow we'll watch those storms push out in the morning. Probably a little bit of a break through the middle of the day, but then some more isolated storms in the afternoon, and some of these could be briefly severe, and again, some hail possible in these storms. An isolated tornado or instance of some damaging wind also there. In fact, damaging winds will be a main threat again over a lot of tomorrow's severe weather risk over this area here. 73099. They're in Yukon, Oklahoma for this evening. Yeah, you are smack dab in the middle of that moderate risk, somewhere where the Storm Prediction Center, if they were to add a high risk, which I don't think they are, but if they were to later today, and the 4 Eastern, 3 o'clock 3 Central update, that would be an area they might consider. It does certainly look like there will be some scattered storms later today, and there will be some at least isolated supercells. You look at that structure there, you see that right there. That's that supercell structure. And we could definitely see some very huge hail. And again, the max hail size for today is around 4 to 5 inches in diameter. I mean, just think of that. Think of that size. You're getting way over the size of baseballs there. You're getting into that softball plus size range. So that's a really dangerous hail possible today. Some of the biggest hail of 2024 so far. Even if you don't get tornadoes, that can still cause significant roof damage, other problems. So keep that in mind. Definitely a few tornadoes also possible, and they could be on the stronger to even violent side there through Oklahoma and south central Kansas this evening. Storms will head out of your area by the middle of the night. Let's see. Could 45334. I think we did Jackson Center, Ohio, didn't we? Or was that somewhere else? Anyway, in western Ohio tomorrow, could they get upgraded to an enhanced risk? I'm really not sure, because it looks like, if anything, the enhanced risk is going to expand further southward. I don't know about northward, because the storms are going to be kind of forming here and then heading southeastward towards, like Weather on the Go said, more of that energy, like Hunter from Weather on the Go said, more energy down here. So everything's going to be kind of sinking towards that energy and trying to tap into that energy more. Let's see. Deborah Jones, 74334. Or 74344. Let's hit that. Grove, Oklahoma. Oh, yeah, I think we just hit that area. Northeast Oklahoma into tonight. Yeah, we just did that a minute ago. Tornado threat for Joplin won't be as high as it is towards parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, but there will be an isolated threat overnight tonight. Again, I think big hail and damaging winds will be the extremely high hazards later tonight, around 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the night. Big hail, some heavy rain, wind, lightning, all that, and then even an isolated tornado or two. We could also get some of those same hazards ramping back up in isolated fashion again during the late day and evening tomorrow on our Sunday. Let's see, Weather on the Go, the only time I see them potentially upgrading to a high risk today would be this evening's update, depending on if there's a significant supercell. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be based on, it's kind of what I was talking about with like the overall trends. If they see something screaming out that looks like it's going to be producing that strong tornado, and that would probably have to be during like the later evening update. I mean, probably the one, not even at 4, but the one that comes closer to 8, 9 o'clock, that update. That would be the one they would probably issue a high risk if they see some things ramping up that could continue to be volatile. And really, that high risk might actually be a little further east than people would think if the storms are moving quickly towards the east while producing longer track tornadoes. $42040. Farmington, Kentucky for tomorrow. Yeah, another area with the damaging wind potential. Probably you will see that enhanced risk expand a little bit more to include you, so it'll probably sink a little further south if I had to guess. and a lot of areas will end up with a damaging wind threat. Could see an isolated tornado tomorrow, but there will be multiple rounds with potential for damaging winds and some hail as well. Let's see, 64870, Webb City, Missouri. Yeah, we were just talking about the Joplin area just now. Probably, I wouldn't. Again, it's really hard to pinpoint whether there's going to be a violent tornado in Joplin, Missouri, right? But the environment, if we look at today's risk, here it is, here, you're getting in that moderate risk, and notice where the tornado threat is, though. It is going to be prominent more to your west, but you're still on the edge of that strong tornado threat. So probably overnight tonight in Joplin, there will be a chance for an isolated strong tornado, but the potential is going to be more elevated, and I'm drawing these arrows up just because it's more elevated for wind and hail, big hail. But again, you could still get an isolated tornado, and technically the ceiling for the tornado would be strong. Now, am I saying like a violent EF4? I'm not going to fully rule it out because I want you to be prepared, but I don't think that's like the most likely thing there. Is it likely over here if we get a big longer track supercell? Certainly. Is it likely in Joplin, Missouri? Not as much. Willisburg, Kentucky. Heading into tomorrow, there will be a round that you'll get probably during the afternoon hours. You can see that one there. Some damaging winds, some hail, maybe even an isolated tornado possible. Your next round, again, will probably move into the middle to the back half of the night there. And these will also be capable of brief damaging winds as it kind of breaks on off while heading towards the southeast. New HRRR. Let's see what the latest run is showing. We should have a new, like, 16Z run, I think. Here we go. Let's see what the latest run on the HRRR is showing for today, because there is some comment going on that down below. Yeah, this is the kind of setup. This is more concerning, this latest run of the HRRR, because you know what it does? It develops less in Texas and more in Oklahoma and Kansas. You're mixing more with that low-level jet up here in Kansas, Oklahoma, and far north Texas. So if storms really fire north of this line here, which is now what this is showing, as opposed to having a bunch more hail and wind down here, no, there's not much of a cap today. That this breaks, just, man, this just doesn't look like the kind of thing you want to see. Those could be longer track tornadoes in moving in any cell that really goes through this area here. Alright, let's see if we're getting towards the time the Storm Prediction Center should issue their new update for Sunday. That's what we're waiting on here before we kind of close down the stream. We're waiting on the new update to Sunday's risk. Can I check out Mount Vernon, Illinois? Yeah, we can do that really quickly here. Best way to support the channel is liking and subscribing. Super thanks are always appreciated as always as well. I basically am a robot. I say that like once every 15 minutes. Moving here as we head towards our Sunday here. Yeah, you are in the middle of that area where I think you could even get an outlook upgrade in the future. You'll get that round of storms that'll probably come through. Oops, let's go back to the earlier run so we can play it all the way out to that time frame. Hello, Misty. You'll probably get a storm there in south central Illinois. It'll probably be in the middle of the morning tomorrow if this setup continues to persist on the models. And then you would get another round late tomorrow, and that could include, both rounds could include all hazards, but again, damaging winds would be your primary threat, especially later in the day when some of those gusts could get upwards of 80 miles per hour on the high end. Is Barnesdale, Oklahoma going to get hit again? Again, it's impossible to know exactly who's going to get hit by an isolated supercell. But in a place like Barnesdale, I mean, right back in the middle of the tornado risk, and wouldn't rule it out happening there. I mean, again, I think the chance of a long-lived violent tornado of that nature going over the same areas twice is pretty low. It's not impossible either. Can I check Bowling Green, Missouri? I certainly can. Not Bowling Green, Bowling Green. There we go. Oops, clicked on Kentucky. Missouri. There we go. Yeah, eastern Missouri. Tomorrow, some storms firing up. You'll have that morning round with some damaging winds possible. It might split you a little bit, depending on where they exactly go. And then late tomorrow, some potentially supercells morphing into more of a line. So all hazards will be at least isolatedly possible, if isolatedly is a word, but definitely damaging winds sinking to your southeast as the evening rolls on. Any tornado threat in Mount Vernon, Illinois, or just damaging winds, there will probably be a threat for at least a few briefer tornadoes, and wouldn't rule out a strong one or two. That's looking to be fairly unlikely at this point, though. Like a really strong tornado would be pretty unlikely unless the environment really ramps up and more supercells appear likely there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Still waiting on the new update for tomorrow. Come on, Storm Prediction Center, let's not be late on this new update. Yeah, it does look familiar. Embrace or erase, I do agree. Am I the only weather YouTuber you've seen who reliably reads the chat? I try. I don't even have a moderator or anybody. I just try to read the chat myself and answer all your questions. So it's sometimes gets stressful, sometimes gets taxing to read every single message and try to hit every single one. But I appreciate you for noting that. Errors. I appreciate you for noting that, because I try my best to hit every question. It's almost impossible, though. And in fact, I almost missed one just now from Amanda Atwood, 42718. I feel like I might have hit that area earlier. Yeah, we're talking Kentucky. We're talking more storms tomorrow, and we are talking possibly all hazards, but especially damaging winds sinking your way multiple rounds tomorrow. I appreciate you two for watching, Hoops. Thanks so much for tuning in. Definitely an intense tornado risk into the overnight hours tonight. Yeah, I think that's starting to look more and more likely. I mean, if we look at the latest, let's see what we've got here on the latest run for tonight. Here, let's do something else. Let's go back over to this. If you can see this new graphic, drop me a thumbs up in the chat, and you can still hear me as well. If the significant tornado parameter is really still maxing out on this graphic for tonight, then man, that's not good. I mean, these parameters are just getting off the charts for tonight, Saturday night, heading into early Sunday. These dew points, man, 70s. Jeez. Everything's just leveling up. Let's look at this. Look at those supercells. Wow. Long track possible at this point. Starting right around sundown and just before over here, and then heading east. This is, if these new models continue to look like this is more of a worst case scenario showing up for Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, and north central Texas. Really, especially central Oklahoma. This could impact some really populated areas at the worst stages of these storms too. Because I mean, if you look at this, you've got the Wichita area in here, Oklahoma City, down to just north of Dallas. Really, I mean, we don't want tornadoes impacting anyone, but especially these heavily populated areas. Just not something you want to see. Just really not good. Lots of moisture also. Look at that. Some of these redder pockets of moisture just moving on northward on the precipitable water graphics. If the low-level jet looks even more intense than it did before, then we're going to have some... wow. If that overlaps with some of these storms, I mean, this isn't a little overnight, so hopefully this will come behind the storms. But if that overlaps with some of tonight's storms, this is a classic bad setup. Even just that, though, that's going to be around for the 10, 11 o'clock storms this evening. That's plenty enough for strong tornadoes to violent tornadoes. And in fact, let's look at the Storm Prediction Center's latest wording on today's outlook for our Saturday here. Yeah, I mean, intense tornadoes. Capable of intense tornadoes. Not the wording you want to see. Alright, they should be updating the Sunday outlook any moment now. Still waiting on that, though. That's the whole reason we're still hanging live here for an extended period of time. Want to check that out as well. I think we've answered enough questions. A lot of people can go back and rewatch at this point and get any questions that they've missed answered. I'm just really trying to see what tomorrow's risk is now looking like. Yeah, that's a great question, Marcus. Storms not firing in Texas. Okay, so I'll draw this out for you while we wait on the new update for tomorrow. Here's what you've got. This is your storm energy. Look where it originates from. Where is it starting? South Texas. If you get storms that sit right here, in fact, I can show you on the earlier runs what those storms that were supposed to form in North Texas and may or may not, what those would do. You see that there? It's clear as day if I were to zoom in even further. There we go. You see these spots? That, where you've just got greens and it's almost trying to go back just to the blank map. That is the storm energy being completely sucked into those storms to produce that giant hail, the potential for a few tornadoes. So you could, I mean, it's still not good for Texas, but it's better for Oklahoma and Kansas if storms fire up in North Texas later today, because again, notice, see how it's disrupting everything? And then look at how those purples kind of disappear once the disruptions start. But if we look at the latest run, I would almost be willing to bet. Notice, look at that. You see those purples without disruption going further into Oklahoma now because the new runs are showing less coverage in Texas. That's how make or break the coverage in Texas is. I mean, look at that. You see those purples in Oklahoma? If we go back to the earlier run, look at how those are quickly eroded away by some of that moves out of Texas and then slowly slides into Oklahoma. That's such a big factor in determining this event. Come on, Storm Prediction Center. I'm counting on you. It's 1:30 Eastern. Come on. Look at that. Just for proof that I'm not waiting on something that's not actually going to happen. Look at that. Current time, 17:30 Zulu. Next update scheduled by 17:30 Zulu. I mean, we're waiting on an update that... I mean, and they say by 17:30 Zulu too. 17:30 Z. That means that it should be out by that time. I shouldn't be waiting after that time for that new information. It's really annoying. $63143. Let's look at that real quick while we wait. Maplewood, Missouri. Eastern Missouri for late tomorrow. You're going to be in the risk for storms, and we're waiting on that new outlook right now, but it looks like damaging winds, some isolated hail, and isolated tornadoes will be your main hazards. I can't stress enough how frustrated I am on waiting on this outlook right now. I mean, I guess it's better if they're investing more of the time into today's outlook. I shouldn't be, they're great forecasters and they really pinpoint the areas well. I shouldn't criticize, but I do get a little impatient when these updates that say they're going to be out by a certain time from a government severe storm prediction agency are not out when they're supposed to be. It slows the process for everybody else getting the information they need to. Could the enhanced be moderate on Sunday? That's what we're trying to find out. We're about to find out, hopefully now, if the Storm Prediction Center will ever update that outlook for tomorrow. But apparently they're not, so this enhanced will stay enhanced. All for eternity. Not really, but feels that way right now, doesn't it? Northern Middle Tennessee for tomorrow. I'm not going to look up the exact Hartsville area, but I can give you a time. Tomorrow you could get around in the middle of the afternoon, so say like 5, 6 o'clock, and then again overnight into the middle of the night Sunday, heading into early Monday as well. And damaging winds will be the primary hazards. Secondary threats for hail and tornadoes there for you there, Shelley Crook. Thanks to everybody. We've almost got as many likes as we do viewers on here right now. Still waiting on the update from the Storm Prediction Center. Yeah, they probably will update in 10 minutes. It seems like the 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central keeps turning into 1:45 Eastern, 12:45 Central. That's been the story lately. And it's really starting to bug me. They just need to put that on the timestamps. Or like, I wouldn't even mind it if they put like that there's a delay coming. But I mean, if they say the outlook's scheduled by this time, I want it. Like, I want the outlook right now. The new outlook. It's ridiculous having to wait on this long. If the enhanced risk shifts anywhere, I would expect it to shift southward a little bit. A little bit of northward expansion would be possible, but like, this is kind of, no, I don't want to draw it like that. I mean, I really think that that's pretty much the northern line for the enhanced right now. Maybe down here, though, we could get some inclusion into the enhanced. And I'm hoping this has taken so long because they're thinking of adding other areas as well that need some inclusion in this risk. But, I mean, the last time this risk outlook for Sunday was updated was before midnight last night. So it's been over 12 hours at this point since there's been an update to Sunday's outlook. 2 new sets of full model runs have come out since there's been an update to Sunday's risk level. I appreciate everybody who's with me right now. We're just really trying to wait on the new information for tomorrow and see how it lines up with some of the timing I've been showing. Come on now. This is just frustrating. Yeah, watch the outlook be like the exact same. I will be intrigued to see if they see any area with increased chance of supercells or strong tornadoes. If I'm placed, if right now while we've got the current outlook, let's just say what I think is going to happen with additions, and I might be completely wrong on this. They might extend the 5% to include some areas a little bit further out here. And that pin's a little too large. They might try to get the 5% a little bit further out here. And they might, if they were to throw in a 10% tornado, it's going to be like in this area, very small. Damaging winds, I think they're pretty good on that, but I do think they need to expand this a little bit further southward, and then these 5% zones need to go a little further outward. And then for the hail, they need to maybe include a small 30% in here. We'll see if they do that, though. There's the current enhanced, right. I might just leave the current enhanced on screen, and then we'll see where the new one goes when they update it here. Here's the current enhanced for tomorrow. Okay, let's see what they do here. Come on. Okay, yep. There we go. There's what we wanted. Okay, there's the change. Look, yeah, they did expand it a little further south to include the areas I mentioned. They did not expand it north. I totally agree with that. Yeah, and look where they did add a small 10% for some of those supercells possible. Southeast Missouri, Southwest Illinois, Western Kentucky, and Northwestern Tennessee. So tomorrow's going to be a little more expansive with this. And no, they're not going to expand this marginal quite as far out as I thought they might try to do so. So I guess they're not quite as certain on those storms that are going to try to push through the foothills of the Appalachians tomorrow. But yeah, slight risk, a little bit of an expansion on that as well, it looks like. Wish I could go back to the old outlook like in the blink of an eye here. Should have left that tab open. But it does look like, again, damaging. Oh, let's go over to the damaging wind. Yeah, notice now they have, the reason they've expanded the severe weather threat for tomorrow is the damaging wind threat. It does look particularly intense. You see those dashed line areas all the way to the far southern end. So not only did they expand that 30% zone for the wind, they also expanded that southward. And look at the hail, just like I mentioned as well. They've expanded the hail threat. And some of that hail could be 2 to 4 inches in diameter at this point now. Probably 2 to 3 in most cases. So that's the new update we've got for tomorrow. This area here is going to be your biggest area to watch. Alright. Just wanted to show everybody that new update. We've been on the stream for quite a while now, so that's going to be the end of this one for today for our Saturday. Thank you to all my new subscribers out there. Thank you to everybody who's hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button now. Donations are always appreciated as well. Thanks so much for joining me. And that is it for this. Everybody have a great one.